Welcome to the Research Talks podcast from Stockbox with Alan Green. Alan, always a pleasure, never a chore. How are you?
Mark, likewise, always a pleasure, never a chore. I'm fine, thanks. And it's Friday again. It's come around again, hasn't it? The weeks today nowadays just seem to fly past.
It comes round, doesn't it? It always comes round, hey? Yeah, but it's nice, I suppose. It's been a busy week for me. I think it's been a busy week for you as well.
It's been a very busy week for me. Yeah. I think as you know, at the start, I was after the announcement by Venture Life Group on Monday about the COVID mouthwash trial. I interviewed Sharon Collins, the company chief commercial officer, and it's been a very busy week for them. It's the trial, I think, has really it's certainly engaged investors looking for another angle on COVID, and I think certainly it captured the imagination of the wider press as well. So it's been a busy week.
Well, I believe we're going to touch on that. You're going to leave that one to the end because it's a bit of an innovative one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's kind of a new entry into the COVID charts, if we can sort of call it that. But certainly, yeah, there's an angle here. I think what I'd like to do is cover Venture Life Group separately in a separate research podcast. But I'm just going to refer to the trial because it does give a very interesting dimension to the battle against COVID. But so today we're on COVID 2, of course.
Yeah, COVID part 2. Yeah, even though was there a second vaccine announced? Is that right?
And it's interesting because the impact on the COVID stocks this time around, obviously when Pfizer announced their vaccine, all the COVID stocks, and it was the Monday that we released COVID Part 1. Yeah. And of course, a lot of the stocks we spoke about then literally fell off a cliff that morning, and most of them have recovered some of the ground since. But the stocks we're going to talk about today also fell off a cliff too. But then when the Moderna news came out, there was also another corresponding fall during the day, but it wasn't quite as sharp. And again, most of that ground has been recovered. So it's interesting. Okay. I think investors are now getting the picture that this isn't just a one-hit wonder, something that can be solved at the stroke of a pen. You know, this is something that's going to be with us for many years. So all of the companies that we're going to talk about today and talked about in the previous episode that have their own means of battling the disease, whether it's through testing, through treating the chronic symptoms, they will all have a part to play going forward.
Good. So we've got 4 COVID stocks to talk about. Take your pick. Which one would you like to start with?
Okay, well, let's start with Synergen. SNG is the EPIC code, and Synergen's had along with most COVID stocks or stocks involved in COVID, it's had a very, very eventful year. Currently trading on about £1.09. The stock has a market cap of 218 million. Shares have traded as high as 259p on the year, and that's coming from a low at the start of the year around 5 or 6p. So you can get some idea of the sort of gains that investors have seen this year. So Synergen. And again, I go back to the point I've made with the other companies. These companies are engaged in their own various areas of biotechnology and research. And of course, Synergen's speciality has been research into respiratory diseases, and these of course include asthma, COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, respiratory RSV, and of course flu and others. And the group uses they use human in vitro models. Of course, in vitro means outside of the body, so it's in a lab environment, which are tested and developed and researched using in-house biobank examples. And the company has a large biobank of tissue and human serum, which is derived both from healthy patients and from diseased patients. So they're able from that to develop biomarkers for validation and assessment when researching the disease. the company also is involved in ex vitro, which is of course in the body, where it uses cultures and blood assays to identify targets, and from the data that they assimilate, they can design and run phase 1 and 2 trials to research and find cures for the various conditions. So the Synergion undertook a collaboration with Pharmaxis in Australia to develop these tiny molecule inhibitors to treat fibrotic disease, which of course is one of the key underlying issues with respiratory diseases. So where you have scarred lung tissue, which leads to shortness of breath, dry cough, and so on, these inhibitors that they're developing are designed to prevent the very worst symptoms from developing, and obviously ultimately leading to death. Also used to treat NASH, which is non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, which is fatty liver disease, liver fibrosis, and back in March this year, the company announced on March the 18th that they were to use the technology, the data and technology that they'd acquired to date to trial for COVID. And they developed from this an interferon beta, IFNB, from a naturally occurring protein in the body, developed a formulation of this to treat these various diseases we've just outlined for direct delivery to the human body via a nebulizer. And of course, nebulizers, I have mild asthma, so I use nebulizers to regulate and treat the condition. Using these tools, they started trialing with COVID. In May, of course, they announced full year results to December. They raised 14 million at the time and reported a full year loss of just under 5 million, as opposed to 4 million previously. And then came that great day, July the 20th, when Synergion announced the trial results from the COVID testing. And they recorded that patients who received the SNG-01 via the nebulizer had 79% lower risk of developing severe diseases versus those patients treated with the placebo. And also those patients were more than twice as likely to recover from COVID-19 as those who'd received the placebo. And probably one of the highest jumps ever. The Synergion shares recorded a 380% rise that day. So it was the shares literally rocketed and then started to push on after that toward the year highs. Just a note on the people running the business. Richard Marsden is the CEO. He's formerly worked at Profile Therapeutics, Zimmer, Gene Tech, and also the pharmaceutical giant Roche before that. Simon Shaw is the chairman. He's formerly of Gyrus Group and Profile Therapeutics too, and worked for Hambros earlier in his life. The FD is also ex-Profile Therapeutics, John Ward, Rapid Deployment Group, and also worked for PwC in the early days. And of course, the founder of the group, along with is a Professor Stephen Holgate, Professor Stephen Holgate, CBE, and you can Google him or go to the Synergion website and find out about Professor Stephen Holgate. There's a very impressive board behind this, and a number of key advisors that are working with them to take the business forward. So to take this forward, the company announced in September that they signed a managed access program with Clinigen to develop an inhaler, or to further develop an inhaler version of the IFN beta to treat hospitalized COVID patients, and at the same time announced an interim loss of 5 million, although post the raise, of course, they had some 11 million in the bank. the shares, of course, have come back gradually during the year, and of course, along with, as we were saying at the outset, Mark, the shares fell sharply on the announcement from Pfizer, but have recovered. Nonetheless, October the 14th, the group announced a placing to raise 80 million and an open offer to raise a further 7 million at £1.75p to fund phase 3 trials in 900 COVID patients and to ramp up production so they could administer treatment for 100,000 plus cases per month starting next year.
So they've announced what, a placing at 175?
That's right. Well, this was announced in October, and the placing was was very successful. That they raised the money, so they're now fully funded for phase 3 trials for 900 COVID patients, and of course to ramp up production. So that from 2021 they'll be able to treat over 100,000 patients per month. And of course, that's going to be a very real step forward in the battle against COVID. And of course, this is treating patients who are at the critical stage. Now, of course, it may well be that as a result of having a pre-existing respiratory condition, a lot of patients find that they have that they maybe have caught the COVID virus as well, and of course, it's compounded. So Synergen's treatment will, of course, alleviate some of the worst symptoms of the respiratory condition that they face. But of course, now it will also go to fight the COVID virus too. So Synergen, I think, have made huge steps forward. And going back to the point I made at the start, this is a long battle. The vaccines come in, that's great. People can be vaccinated, but of course, people will still catch it. People they will still battle it. And this is something that's used at the chronic stage where patients can be treated and as the data is already proved from the trial, patients will be saved.
And it's come off the year highs, hasn't it? Quite a lot. So it could be a good opportunity to jump in.
Well, I think so. I mean, they've raised 87 million. So they're fully funded, phase 3 trials, and they will now be able to treat 100,000 patients per month starting next year. And of course, this isn't going to just be for a few months and then everyone's treated and fine. This will go on. So it's highly likely, I think, once the phase 3 trials are successful, that this will be rolled out and there'll be increased demand for it. So I think you're right. I think this is a very good time to get into Synergen. And I did actually see Richard Marsden present at an event a couple of years ago, and I was very impressed with the guy himself and just the way he spoke about the company. So I think there's a good team there as well. And when you're looking at an investable proposition, you have to take all those things into account. But there's a very good website. Go and look at the website, and also go and read up about the board too. It's very much like a who's who of the biotech and pharmaceutical industry.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so we then come to Omega Diagnostics.
Now we see that ticker going around, ODX.
Yes, ODX, and again, the shares of Omega Diagnostics have had an amazing year too. But again, as with all of these companies, the initial drive for the company was in a different area, but then they took a close look at the technology and, of course, realised it could be adapted. So. Omega Diagnostics currently worth around 100 million market cap, shares trading about 56p. They've traded as high as £1.13 and as low as 6.5p on the year. And if you look at the website, you'll find the core focus of the group is on allergies, food intolerance, and infectious diseases. And their primary offering is Visitect, which is the CD4. That's a molecular a treatment derived from the patient's immune system, and the treatment detects a patient's immune and clinical status, and also identifies those at risk of opportunistic infection, and also for those with HIV. This is basically an an instant blood test. So it's a finger prick, and it's called a lateral flow test. And basically, that test will tell you in 10 minutes what the condition is, what treatment is required, and so on. So it's very quick. It's a rapid test, and it's already been approved by the Nigerian Ministry of Health to treat those with HIV, and or to work with patients to identify those with HIV and other diseases.
So it's a prick test that gives you HIV test results very quickly.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
10 minutes. So that's it. Literally prick on the finger, and that's it, and away you go. So again, Visitect was with the technology was developed and evolved to treat COVID-19. But before I get into the COVID-19 element, there's also the company also has the ELISA treatment, which is short for enzyme-linked immune sorbent assay, and the ELISA treatment detects antibodies in the human serum for up to 59 to 60 common foods, and again, you get the results back there within about 40 minutes. So again, food intolerance issues, allergies. It's a very quick way to tell if a person is allergic to any form of food. Milk intolerance, peanuts, all the rest of it. We hear about so many different conditions nowadays. There's a global distribution agreement in place with Immunodiagnostic Systems (IDS), which is of course a listed company in its own right. So that's, again, those are the core businesses. So going back to COVID-19, it was decided that the Visitect technology would be applicable, given that it already achieved gold standard and had been approved by Nigerian Ministry of Health. It was a memorandum of understanding was announced in April to form a rapid test consortium with Oxford University and Abingdon Health, and two other companies, BBI Solutions and Seeker Healthcare. So this RTC, Rapid Test Consortium, has worked and developed through the year. Abingdon Health has been key in this. Separately, the company announced an agreement later in April with a company called Mologic to provide manufacturing resources and facilities for the Mologic COVID-19 ELISA test, which was CE marked on April 27th. So again, the technology developed by Omega Diagnostics, it was realized that the ELISA system, as well as the Visitect CD4 system, could have use in helping to detect and identify COVID cases. April 28th, a supply agreement was announced with Clinton Health to supply up to a maximum of 500,000 units of Visitect CD4. And on the back of that, in June, the company announced it had raised 11 million at an oversubscribed placing of 40 pence. Again, just a word on the board. The CEO is Colin King. He joined, I think it was about 2013, 2014, as he joined as the chief operations officer and was promoted to CEO subsequently, formerly from Axis Shield. The chairman is a guy called Bill Rhodes. He's formerly of Becton Dickinson and Co., worked for BD Sciences and also Pfizer in the past, held senior positions there. Kieran Harbison, the FD, has been responsible for raising some $85 million in VC funding over the last 18 months. And commercial director Jag Gruhl is also former NHS and has previously worked for Beckman's and also Serco Health earlier in his life. So again, a very sound professional team to develop and build the Visitect and ELISA models. So July 14th, they announced full year results. Like-for-like revenues were up to just under 10 million, a loss of 7 million from, and that was an increased loss from previously. The group also said it was it was stopping work on the allergy development arm of the business to focus on on ramping up the COVID rapid tests, and to expand the Visitect production lines. Landmark on July the 30th, CE mark of COVID-19 lateral flow antibody test. So that's the finger prick test, received a CE mark. And on August 21st, the World Health Organization approved Visitect CD4 for identifying advanced diseases as the only available handheld lateral flow point of care test. So, this is significant. This is a test that's being used all over the world. So we move on from there. The UK government on October the 6th announced orders for 1 million rapid test consortium. That's the rapid test consortium put together with Abingdon Health, Oxford University and others. The most recent update from the group is a trading update in October for the half year, which recorded turnover of just 3 million. But of course, these numbers are before the impact of the orders for the tests and the other developments have been factored in. So the group said it had 7 million cash on the 20th of August, and it expects a very strong second half, quote unquote. So again, the shares have come back a long way from the year highs of £1.13, trading at 55p at the moment. But this test, the lateral flow test, the finger prick test, is in use now all over the world, and I think again, this isn't something that's going to be solved at the stroke of a pen. This is a test that will have multiple uses, not just for COVID going forward, but I think there's a great future here for Omega Diagnostics. It's probably you could look at COVID and say that it's hugely helped the business take those steps forward, because the government needed a rapid test like this. It's now got it, and of course, once you've got government approval, it's very easy then to replicate that in other countries throughout the world. So I think again, there's a really strong recovery opportunity here for Omega going forward into 2021.
And is it Omega's finger prick test that's being used, or is it part of this consortium that you mentioned?
Yeah, that's right. The finger prick test was developed. Well, the technology was already there, but they work with the consortium because obviously when you're developing anything like this, historically, to get it through the various stages takes an awful long time. But working with the consortium, they were able to ramp up the production, jump through the regulatory hoops, and actually get it to market much earlier than they would otherwise have done. So the consortium, working with that consortium of Oxford University, Abingdon Health, BBI Solutions, and Seeger Healthcare, they've been able to bring it to market, in a fraction of the time that it would normally have taken.
Right. So it is out there now being sold.
It is. That's right. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm surprised. That the share price hasn't responded really to that.
Well, I think it has. I think the CE mark in July. If you look at the jump up in the shares in the share price into August and September, approval from the World Health Organization, and the subsequent developments, and then of course we've seen the share price come back. Again, there's an old saying in the market: it's better to travel than to arrive. So, of course, once the news starts coming in, a lot of investors that got in earlier on will take their money off the table. So, so the share price will come back. So I think now we're seeing a period of consolidation. The company's raised the money. It raised money to fund itself to this point, and of course now it's all about production, getting those out into the marketplace, and growing the market that those finger prick tests are being sold into.
Yeah, as you say, they're going to be needed, aren't they? Regardless, even if with the vaccine, which is possibly encourage perhaps the recent decline as well. I didn't realise they were that advanced in it. Actually, I always see it going around on Twitter, but I didn't realise that they actually had a working product that was actually being sold to governments. I mean, that's, if that's not a big tick in the box, I don't know what is.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I mean, the UK government last month ordered 1 million rapid test consortium tests. So that it's out there. It's been ordered.
Okay.
There's they've reached that they've if you like now achieved commercial verification of the test. So
yeah, exactly.
it's huge. The test was working to identify HIV and other conditions in other countries, but yeah, it's, if you consider such a short period of time really to develop that test for COVID, that's it's an astonishing step forward. And but of course this is being replicated with other pharma companies at various stages, to find a vaccine that works against COVID. Pfizer it was a miracle, and of course Moderna as well, and we're going to see others as well, I'm sure.
It's a good time for farmers. I mean, we always come back to the same point, don't we, where they were in something, but the COVID has given them a chance to pivot temporarily or permanently, which has brought funds in, money in, and they can, that only betters the bigger picture of the original sort of research or product they were developing.
Oh yeah, very much so. And off the back of that, I mean, we spoke about Destiny Pharma recently, and of course that they're in the same position. They've now sort of raised funds to, and also acquired. They've also acquired another phase 3 trial for C. difficile, which is a hospital superbug. But I've taken a left turn there. I'm not going to talk about Destiny Pharma, but this is happening. As a result of the work that's been done on COVID and the awareness they've generated, the subsequent increase in the valuation of the company and the improved ability to raise funds and attract new investors. It's the net effect is that the process of developing the core in-house drugs has been fast tracked.
Yeah. Good. Okay, well, we've got 2 more to cover. So, is it Open Orphan next?
Open Orphan is, yep. Of course, we have spoken about Open Orphan before, but Open Orphan is they're a contract research organization, and we've heard all about, of course, the quarantine centre at Queen Mary's, where COVID trials have been conducted. But Open Orphan has many strings to its bow, and it's had an incredibly eventful year, both as a corporate entity and, of course, in terms of the work it's been undertaken. So in the summer of 2019, there was a reverse takeover of Venn Life Sciences, and of course, Venn Life Sciences are the group that undertake chemistry, manufacturing, and controls for drug development. At the start of this year, the company merged with hVivo, and hVivo, of course, own and operate the quarantine centre in East London, which is the largest quarantine centre in Northern Europe. So Open Orphan basically generates its cash from hVivo, about 15 million per annum at last reckoning. And of course, Venn Life Sciences have contract research, contracts with companies like Ipsen Pharma, Pfizer, and so on. Companies and also companies pay to promote their products